everyone, welcome to Yoga Tuesday. Today we're going to do Child's Pose. Now I love Child's Pose. I actually do Child's Pose pretty much every morning to start my yoga practice. And the reason for that is because it is a very quieting pose and I'm able to breathe into my back body. So when you tend to think about breathing, we tend to think about, oh, I'm going to breathe into the front part of my body. I'm going to breathe into my chest. But there's actually, our lungs are 3D. They're not flat, and there's a back part of our lungs. And in order to bring breath into all parts of our lungs, which is what we want to do, we want to deepen our breath and fill up our entire lung with the breath. We want to bring it into the back body. So I always start with Child's Pose because it exposes the back of the lungs and I'm able to bring more breath there. So for Child's Pose, you're going to bring your knees apart and your big toes together. So I have my big toes together, my knees are apart. I sit my buttocks back down on my heels and begin to walk my hands forward as I rest my head onto the floor. Now you want to have a roundness in the spine because it is a forward bending position. And I'm trying to sink my buttocks back down on my heels by pressing my hands down and forward. And then I'm able to get a little bit more releasing of the groins to get my buttocks to release down. Now you can see my arms are nice and straight. My elbows are lifted up off the floor. And I have a nice broadness across my back by rotating my arms. So I'm taking my triceps toward my ears here, and that helps to keep a broadness across my back. And then I begin to breathe. And I'm breathing right into my back body, right in the back of the lungs. Filling up my lungs with a nice deep inhale. And then as I exhale, I press my hands and deepen my pose by taking my buttocks a little bit more toward my heels. Good, and then bring your hands underneath your shoulders and push yourself up. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about that pose for people who have difficulty with it. It seems like a very simple pose, but for many people, it's not so simple. And the reason is either having to do with their knees, their feet, or their hips and low back. So I'm going to show you a couple variations if you need. One of them is for the feet. So if the tops of the feet are bothering you in that pose, you can take a blanket like so and have it just folded just like this. And you may need more, and if you need more, that's fine. You can always take more blankets and stack them up. But what you want to do is allow the middle front part of your foot. So look at your foot. It's right there in the center, and it's the top of the foot. It hangs over the edge of the blanket there. And then you create a little bit of relief on the top of the feet. So that's the first way to do Child's Pose if your feet are bothering you. The second thing is if the knees are bothering you. Now, if the knees are bothering you, you can fold the blanket in half, and then you can place it right behind the knees. So big toes together, I shove that right in behind my knees, and then I sit on the blanket and reach forward, and so then it takes some pressure off of the knees if that's the problem that you have while doing Child's Pose. And also, if your buttocks are lifted way up, so if you're not able to get that depth in the groins, then you're not able to sit the buttocks down, you can also place a blanket in behind, and that will help you to start to be able to release downward, or at least find some comfort in the pose. The other thing that happens in this pose is that people have a hard time putting their head on the floor. Now, you can either use a block or a blanket for this, depending on how much you need. But some people are able to sit their buttocks down, but this tends to happen. They can't get their head down. And so if that's the case, you can take a block and place your forehead right on top of that block. Or if you just need a little support, you can certainly use a piece of blanket. And you want to really rest the forehead because it's a quieting pose. And when you rest the forehead, it helps you to quiet in the pose. So there's just some variations that you can do. I hope those are helpful if you have issues with that pose. And I will see you next week. Namaste.